Λοιπόν, η τοπική αυτοδιοίκηση και στην Ελλάδα κάνει τεράστια προσπάθεια ώστε οι συλλογικότητες, από τη στιγμή που είναι δύσκολο να έχουμε τον κάθε πολίτη ξεχωριστά ως πολιτικό συμμετέχοντα στη διαδικασία λήψης των αποφάσεων, κάνει προσπάθειες από τη στιγμή που δεν μπορούμε να έχουμε τον κάθε πολίτη ξεχωριστά, να έχουμε τις συλλογικότητες και να ακούγεται δηλαδή η φωνή των εθελοντών στις ομάδες και στις οργανώσεις στις οποίες συμμετέχουν. Θα ζητήσω την άδεια της κυρίας Δημάρχου. Θέλετε να προηγηθεί για ένα δεκάλεπτο η διεθνής προσκεκλημένη από το Λονδίνο, αν σας επιτρέπει, και να ολοκληρώσουμε με εσάς. Λοιπόν, μετά την άδεια της Δημάρχου του Αγίου Δημητρίου, ενός επίσης Δήμου που είναι κοντά στον οικοδεσπότη μας Δήμο της Νέας Μύρνης, με έντονο επίσης κοινωνικό προφίλ, θα καλέσω στο βήμα την κυρία Αμίνα Khalid, η οποία εκπροσωπεί έναν οργανισμό που οι αρμοδιότητες του ακουμπούν σε αυτά που μόλις θίχθηκαν από τον Σλοβαίνο προσκεκλημένο μας. Μιλάει δηλαδή, αναφέρεται στην βιωσιμότητα των κοινοτήτων και κατά πόσο μπορεί να είναι βιώσιμες αυτές οι κοινότητες όταν επενδύουν και όταν έχουν επίκεντρό τους τον πολίτη. Με background από τη Σομαλία, η κυρία Αμίνα Khalid θα μας αναπτύξει το πώς δραστηριοποιούνται οι εθελοντές για την ενίσχυση του διαλόγου και της δημοκρατίας στο Ηνωμένο Βασίλειο.
Good afternoon, everyone. I feel really delighted to be here. I cannot believe that I'm standing and actually speaking before you. This was not part of the program. Certainly, I didn't know anything of it. So thank you very much, Vanessa, for giving me this platform. It's a real honor to be here and to represent Great Britain. I have to say that although we call it Great Britain, not everything is so great about it at the moment. And as we all know that, we are living in a world of much crisis, a crisis that I think we are all called to respond to through compassion and love and the real sense of solidarity, to be a service to one another, to our community and our society. One certainly cannot stand alone in doing so. I was thinking about something that Vanessa said yesterday about refugees. And what I recall is that she said it's not just about responding to the situation and the crisis of refugees. We are dealing with a much bigger problem, is that humanitarian, a call to action in which we all need to respond to. And for me, to be honest, Vanessa, you really touch the very core heart of what I believe and my great conviction of doing the things that I'm so wholeheartedly engaged in. 19 years ago, I was forced to flee from my home, the only home which I've ever known, Somalia. I was forced to leave my family, friends, my communities and loved ones, persecuted, in conflict, and lost a number of loved ones because of the civil war. 25 years later and more, the war is still ongoing. Not civil, but still great division exists in Somalia. The greatest division, which is now very much present and so visible, both in the home and also in Europe, is the division of tribalism that has really disconnected and brought the country into completely nothing at the moment. But even with that, I do have great hope. Being a refugee, it is not easy, where you have to leave everything that you ever known and you start life from scratch. My father was Minister of Information. I remember as a child living a very well-off life, one which was very much about being a service to the community, surrounded by love and compassion and of solidarity. The world in which I live in today and I grew up in is very far and very different from what I have been taught. Nevertheless, starting a fresh life, a new life, was the only option I was ever given. Coming to Europe as a young child, there is a sense of excitement, but one never quite knows what is awaiting for you. Starting from scratch, learning a new language, understanding the culture, integrating with the people, feeling a sense of belonging, forming a new identity. This is actually, when we talk about issues concerning identity and belonging, it's probably one of the biggest issues facing young people across the world today. What is our purpose in life? Why are we here for? Who are the ones who are actually supporting what we are called out to do? When you see young people in search of joining, all these malicious leaders or groups in which we are totally against, it's because of that. So maybe this is what we need to ask ourselves. What is it that these people are offering to our younger generations that we haven't been able to do so in our own country, in our respective countries? And I think maybe only then, when we begin to understand and answer these questions in an absolutely honest and transparent way, then could we engage with young people. Young people are yearning for only one thing: to be listened to, not listened to from here, but listened to from the heart, to connect and to feel wanted, to be part of something and to say that they are playing a role in building that community, building that society, and playing a role in making the social actions in which we have been talking about today. Despite of the struggles, I remember as a 13-year-old starting secondary education in the UK, I was not accepted. I was told to go back home, you don't belong here. I was threatened many times. I had no home to go to. Till this day, I have no home to go to. As far as I'm concerned, my home is Great Britain. I am a European, I'm a proud African, I'm a woman, and I'm a proud Muslim. And that, in all the various multiple identities which I stand before you right now, is one which I would like to serve not just my community, but every other community in which I ever cross paths with, because I do believe that this is a real privilege. Now, being part of an organization that wholeheartedly believes in this work called Initiative of Change, which is a global movement of people who are changing the world for the better, starting with oneself. You cannot change someone else before you change yourself. That's why it's called Initiatives of Change. It is an organization that is active in 60 countries, including the UK, where I work as a consultant to a program called Sustainable Communities to address the world's crisis, the world's needs. And we have three key areas of focus. Ethical leadership, developing a leadership culture that is based on moral integrity, compassion, and selfless service, where you be of a service to someone else with the hope of nothing in return. Sustainable living, working for economic justice, environmental sustainability through transformation of motives and behaviors. After all, without having the right motive and doing the work in a dignified, in integrity, you cannot do it properly. And building trust through honest conversation and forgiveness. Earlier on, as I was listening to our distinguished speakers, we talk about all the various activities that is going on in our municipalities, in our areas, in our communities. But the way in which we do those work is important. I know that in the world, no matter where we are, there is a great blame factor. Young people are blaming the government for failing them greatly. Parents are blaming the government because they feel that their right has been taken away from them in the sense of disciplining their children in the way that they have been raised. Generations are changing, society is changing, and we have to change with it. Change is not a negative thing, it is a very positive thing. But the way in which we use these changes to make the difference that we want to see in the world, that is what will have a huge impact. This organization has been founded by a man called Frank Buchman. We are going way back into history. Although we are active in over 60 countries, our headquarters is in Switzerland. Annually, we have international conferences where we have over 300, in fact, a full house would be a 400, where we've got distinguished speakers, participants from all over the world to represent the significance and importance of the work that they're doing. And as I was listening to volunteering and the importance of service, I remembered one of the key parts in our international conference, as well as the conferences itself, is actually the service factor of the time during between July and August, where all the international conferences are taking place. Every single participant, including politicians, ambassadors, and all other leaders, are serving. In fact, we have a rota in which you serve the various activities in the house. That means the cooking, the cleaning, the clearing, working different departments. The reason why we do that is not just the volunteering aspect. There is a great aspect of it, the example of being an equal. Before God, we are equal. Yet, us as a human being, we do not treat each other as equals. We feel that one person is better than another. Now, wonder why there is so much injustice in the world? Of course, if you have those beliefs instilled in you, and you are raising a young generation who are in many ways quite naive, and of course influenced by the role of the media, which is now corrupting the mind. When you talk about corruption, it's not just the internal and external corruption that we see. Once the mind is corrupted, the country is corrupted. We have failed states because of that. Without it, there's nothing we can do. Now, Frank Buchman, the founder of Initiative of Change, he says, there is a common meeting ground in the fact that we all need to change. That means nations as well as people. If leaders change, they can change their people. If people change, they can change their leaders. That follows on to my other hat, which I wear, which is my work with Somali Initiative for Democracy and Dialogue. I am trustee of the organization. It's an organization that is an umbrella organization which is within Initiatives of Change. Somali Initiative for Democracy and Dialogue has been existing now for the last 10 years. It's been active in engaging with young migrant families, the communities to stabilize both in the host and respective countries, to show a different face of the contribution of refugees, in which so many people believe that refugees are only there to be sponging off the government, to not be of a service to the society, and to not be contributing. We must never fail to acknowledge the importance and the role that refugees actually play in the world today. It is because of them that our economy has changed for the better. It is because of them that people are more integrated. It's because of them that culture, understanding and diversity is so present across Europe. I could not imagine Great Britain not to be part of the EU. Now, the decision that will be made on the 23rd of June will be one that will be very historic. Not just historic for Great Britain, but historic for the world, and of course, Europe on the whole. It is a consequence which we have to think very greatly where we are heading today, what we want to get out of future, what we are instilling in our younger generation to pass on to the many generations to come. Now, going back to the World of Somali Initiative for Democracy and Dialogue, we often underestimate the contribution of the African diaspora. African diaspora has not only contributed so vastly to Europe on the whole, but even with that great difficulties in which they have faced, in many respects, they are also serving their society, their host country and respective ones. The number of African diasporas who are spending every single last penny in their pocket to support people back home is absolutely beyond measures. That, you will not find that in statistics. That is not reflected in the media. That is not reflected in our conversations, and is certainly not acknowledged in many communities. I today, as a proud African diaspora, as a proud British citizen, and as a proud European, stand here before you and say that the work before us is one that is so big, a person alone cannot do it. United we stand, but apart we will fall. Thank you.